Well, my daughter Megan was always very organized. She was the owner of a private clinic. And she was always in charge of many things. You know, taking care of employees, funds, taxes, and so on.
Understood.
You know, on that fateful day when my daughter died, her clinic received a large grant from a government program. She was very happy to share that news with me over the phone. She called me at about 4 o'clock.
And she usually finished her work around 6 o'clock, right?
Yes, but she also liked to visit that place by the sea. She liked to look at the sea from that cliff. The body was found at the bottom of it. You know, even though it happened almost 2 years ago, I remember that day as if it happened yesterday. The police called and said what occurred with my daughter. I was shocked but tried to pull myself together, no matter what was going to happen. It was awful.
And what did the police say after all this time?
Well, they say it was an accident. You know, the cliff, she was careless. It was in the evening, so a lack of light. She stumbled.
But you don't believe that, right?
Yes. My daughter visited that place many times. Basically, she liked it from the time she was a child. She wouldn't approach the cliff in dangerous places. I'm sure of it.
Is this place deserted?
No, everyone knows it. I would say it's usually not very crowded, especially at this time.
Do you have someone in mind who could do it?
No, I can't guess who could do it. My daughter didn't have many enemies. Of course, she was rich, but she was a very sweet person. She had very good relations with all colleagues and friends.
Can you provide us with more information about colleagues and friends?
Sure, her best friend was Barbara. By the way, you can visit her, she lives not far from here. Megan communicated with many people. Most of her contacts were business-related. Richard is one of her acquaintances, and he is also the owner of a private clinic in our city.
Interesting. Barbara, I called you recently.
Yes, go on. I have some time.
Do you think Megan had some people who wanted this to happen to her?
Oh, no. I don't think so. As far as I know, she didn't have many enemies.
Do you remember the day of the accident?
Yes, it was awful, basically a nightmare.
And where were you on that day?
At work. I work until 7 o'clock.
How did you find out about the accident?
Her mother called me. I also had a phone call with Megan that day. She was very happy to tell me that her clinic received a lot of money from that program. I don't think it was her fault like the police told us. I knew Megan very well. She was a very organized and careful person. She wasn't a risky person in any way.
Any guesses who could do it?
No.
Do you think she was alone there?
No, I think there was someone else.
Hi, Richard. I need to ask you some questions if you don't mind.
Of course.
You look a bit tired. We can reschedule the meeting if you want.
Is that your question? Don't waste my time and yours.
Sorry, let's start then. Did you know Megan well?
Yes, we were kind of friends. Of course, it was more like a business relationship. Megan was the owner of a private clinic, as I am.
Where were you at the time of the accident?
Here, working.
Understood. Do you know someone who could wish that happened to Megan?
The police already told us it was an accident, so nothing to discuss here. It was an accident.
Why are you so sure?
Well, it was evening, no light, and the cliff was very steep.
How do you know it's steep?
Everyone knows that.
What do we have?
A lot of statements and no clue. You know that the owner of a clinic, Richard, is very touchy.
Why?
I told him that he looked tired, suggesting that we might reschedule our meeting, and he lost his temper.
He did.
Funny, right? I also talked to some people at the clinic, and I'm sure he's very quick-tempered.
Funny and interesting. I visited that cliff, and you know, that place is very visible from a nearby house.
Who lives in the house?
A family with a boy.
Did you talk to them?
Yes, they weren't at home when it happened. Except for the boy.
Did you talk with him?
Yes, he said he saw two at the cliff, a man and a woman. You said about Richard, and before that, I didn't understand how it is related to the case.
Why?
Because no one had a motive.
Did Richard have a motive?
No, but he has a bad temper.
I know what we should do. I asked the boy's mother to visit Richard's clinic with the boy and pretend to have some minor health problems.
Did the boy see Richard?
Yes, Richard often walks by the hall they were sitting in.
And the boy recognized him?
Yes, he did.
Richard knew that the grant they failed to win went to Megan's clinic. Even though he didn't have a motive, he murdered Megan.
Because of his bad temper.
They talked that day at the cliff, and at some point, he lost his temper.
He pushed Megan over the edge.
And after a few seconds, he regretted it.
Bad temper, indeed.